Hello, welcome to another live session at the Guest EdTech Virtual Summit Dubai. Thank you for joining us. As always, please feel free to send us any questions through the chat panel located on the right-hand side of the platform, and we'll do our best to get to these at the end of the session. If you'd like to watch the session all over again, we'll be uploading the recording here on the virtual event platform, and it will be accessible along with all other sessions for another month. Please do connect with us on social media. Let us know the sessions and speakers you're enjoying by following and tagging us at Guest Education on Twitter and using the hashtag #GuestEdTech. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Marc Sanz Lopez, Head of Education at Google, Southern, Central and Eastern Europe, Middle East and North Africa, and Yazid Al-Gharaibi, Head of Education at Google MENA. We hope that you enjoyed this session, and over to you, Marc.
Thank you very much, Danny. Shukran. I have to present the screen again. Or do we see the screen directly? I lost sight of my slides. Resume screen. I think we're now, yeah? So, hi everyone, marhaba. This is Marc Sanz, as Danny was saying, and I have Yazid here, which is going to be my first point of the day. My first slide is welcoming Yazid Al-Gharaibi, which is our new education MENA lead. Ooh, normally in a normal event, I would ask for applauses. Here, it's so weird to have any sort of celebration slide without any live audience. But, you know, I am very excited for this. And the reason is that this showcases the commitment of Google from an education point of view to the region of the Gulf and the Middle East in general. Because in the past, we've been present and we've been supportive, but you know, this just shows an incredible commitment from our side. I'm very happy that Yazid has joined us. I'll let him say just a few words before we continue with the presentation.
Sure. Thank you, Marc. Hi, everybody. My name is Yazid Al-Gharaibi. I just joined Google MENA recently, and I am looking forward to be working with all of you. I came from different background from the telecommunication sector, but I will be dedicated for the MENA region and addressing the e-education in all levels. Please don't be shy to contact me. My email is there. I can see it. I hope that everybody see it. And now let's start the fun with Marc. Please, Marc, go ahead.
Shukran, Yazid. So I really like starting many events with this slide, which it seems we would all agree that the world is changing fast, right? Going to give you a couple seconds to read that on the right. It's one of my funniest slides, I think. And I like to say that, you know, it's funny how we all think the world is going fast, but we could also rephrase this and say that it's going faster than yesterday, but slower than tomorrow, slower than after. So in other words, the world will never go as slow, as less dynamic, as less changing, as less hectic as today. Today will be the day that the world goes the slowest of the rest of your lives. And I think it's a great attitude, a great way of seeing this, because if you know, all this digitalization and all sorts of like technological transformations were a train, you would want to jump to that train when it's going the slowest, right? So I like to think that, you know, there's never a day like today to try something new in the classroom, to try a new technology, or to try some new methodology, right? So I want to share a couple initiatives, or one initiative, especially one initiative that we've done in the Gulf region, that we will now double down with a new series of initiatives around Grow with Google. But Maharat Min Google is a program that helps people embrace this shift in the society, right, and the new opportunities it brings by providing them with the right skills for their personal and professional growth. Right, and I like this quote that we got from our internal team, which is that in 2020, 1 in 5 jobs in the Arab world will require digital skills that today just aren't widely available, right? So we have an issue with this. I think we have a little bit more information on how the website looks like here. I think, you know, we have a lot to cover today, so I won't spend too much time around the content. I encourage you to go and check it out. Just search for Google Maharat in Google. But I think the biggest highlight is that to date, right, this is not a future program. We've already been executing this. We've trained over 1 million students, of which 50% of those are women in Middle East and North Africa. I found that was pretty inspiring. And one, people that go through training generally said that they were easier to find a job or accelerate their career in some way or another. So, what are we going to talk today, right? And I think this is a great slide and a great question to answer. What makes someone competitive today, right? Productive and competitive in the workplace. And I like this slide because it represents what the virtual meetings are today more than ever, given the pandemic and the situation of that a lot of people are working from home. But this actually preceded the pandemic because the workplace is already going toward this format, and this represents this virtual meeting where everyone's joining from a different country, a different place, with a different language and culture, right? And they all end up working together and having to interact together. And that is the workplace that today is more and more frequent, and the one that Google wants to help prepare the future adults, the future workers, right, or kids today. I really like this slide as well. It's like, why are we transforming anything? Why are we doing anything like this? Well, the rules of the game are changing. I think that's a good title. And you can see below the different technologies like the telephone, the automobile, the television, etc. Like, how long did they take for them to reach 50 million users? And you can see the big difference between the telephone, which took 75 years, or the car, which took 62 years to reach 50 million users, to Twitter, that it only took 9 months. And obviously, this is dramatically changed after the internet, and we can see that the apps and new services just spread at the speed of fire. And this is the new world we're living in, right? So I like to always think that technology and the way we approach things usually incrementally changes, right? And we iterate, we learn, and we keep growing on it. But there's sometimes where we want to dramatically change its functionality. For example, here a car, right? When we wanted to start flying, which is quite different than driving in a road, we probably want to do something different than the inventor in this photograph did, right? I always like to ask in the public. It's a pity you can't answer me now, but would you fly in this? It doesn't seem very reliable, does it? And at the end of the day, think about the car and all the innovations it has, right? From seat belts to airbags and ABS, like all sort of like sound system, like so many security systems and traction and different systems in the car. But at some point, those incremental innovations weren't enough to help us achieve the goal of flying. If you wanted to fly, you had to start from zero, and you had to design a plane directly, right, with the needs in mind of what you're trying to do. And that's a little bit of what's happening in education, right? We're seeing a lot of people that are trying to do very, very small changes to a system that is completely preparing the kids for another world, for one that is not active today, and that, again, like somehow opportunistically, the pandemic and the need to work from home and learn hybridly, or this event we're doing virtually as well, like it's highlighted this need of transforming and preparing the people for the world that is here today. So we're not even talking about the future. So let's get a little bit more into the education space, right? Because those are some highlights around society. I like setting up the scene with those. But we have done quite a bit of research. This specifically was a result of the research we done with the Economist Intelligence Unit a couple of years ago, and we saw that there was mainly the top 4 strategies as the ones that educators themselves were telling us that the ones we want to keep in mind when designing the learning experiences, right? When we're thinking of what homework to give, how to give the class, how to make the groups, how to design that experience, right? So it's active learning, right? It's way more active and interactive than just reactive, right? We understand that is a very different way of teaching when you just throwing content at someone and then testing them on it and obviously applying it in some way, rather than the course of itself, perhaps giving a lot more responsibility to that student on what they should learn and where the sources, etc. like flipped learning is one of many. We have personalized learning, right? And we actually, probably we've been working with Aleph Education, a strong strategic partner of us in the region. We think they're a great example of what personalized learning driven by AI can look like today. But project-based learning, I'm sure you guys have heard this a lot, and cognitive activation. Now, we're not going to go into detail of each one of these because I just want to give you a different type of flavors of what Google for Education is, because maybe a lot of you are thinking, okay, I know Google, but what is Google doing for education, right? So a part of what we do is research on what works so that we can make the best recommendations on how to use our products. So what is the role of technology in this, right? Because if we go back one slide very quickly, these strategies have nothing to do with technology. Like whether you project-based learning with a laptop, with pen and paper, like all of our older generations have done, well, it's still project-based learning. So going back, what is the role of technology? Well, 82% of educators agree technology is a valuable tool for developing skills for, again, the modern workplace, right? The one we want to support, the one that is surviving, not the one that is dying. And 77% say students can be more engaged when technology is used as part of lessons, which I think we all resonate with that, right? If you put a VR headset or computers or apps or videos, it's always a little bit more engaging than the old textbook, right? On black and white. So we're going to throw a few more statistics around some of this research we've done. Well, obviously, 21st century skills are crucial, and holistic approach is essential, right? With an emphasis on holistic approach, right? And there's 3 data points that I thought was interesting to share. 81% of teachers need to consider future skills needs to better prepare students for the modern workplace. Challenging students, 81% also thought that challenging students to exceed their own performance expectation achieves better results. See here that there's a focus on them as their own expectation setting, or them as their own competitors, as opposed to like more standardized grades and more centralized kind of like benchmarking. We think that they should always try to improve who they are, right, and focus on their individual development, of course with others, but always looking at improving yourself. And 79% of the teachers were telling us that for students to succeed professionally, having soft skills is as important as foundational literacies, which is usually what we see in our curriculum, right? And I want to highlight this because I, for example, joined Google, and it's not because of the grades that I got in college, or it's not because a lot of the hard skills that I was measured and evaluated through my degree in college and through high school and so on. It's because of the soft skills of how had I learned to teamwork, how had I learned to start something from scratch and work virtually, how resourceful I was on contacting people or finding answers online and so on. And those are soft skills that nowadays we're finding it quite hard in general to evaluate. So a big message from us that we should put more time into understanding how to evaluate this. And you, the audience, the educators are the real experts on this, right? I always say that we are the technology partner for you guys to achieve what your pedagogical objectives are. But we do rely on you as the experts on helping us shape that, of course. We just follow. So in terms of what technology was most effective, laptops was the most cited, although I gotta be honest, I did expect like a majority. It felt like a lot of people were using a lot of different technology, regardless of laptops, right? And bear in mind, like the second category, which is educational games, right, or gamification around learning, can be used through laptops, but it was highlighted as a different category, and I think it's quite interesting. And I think interactive whiteboards is an interesting one as well, because depending on the region, they're more in fashion or less. Do remember, if you don't know it, check Google Jamboard. It's a great device. It's also just an app that is basically an interactive whiteboard from a 21st century, and it's free for all Gsuite for Education users. So what is our mission? Right, our mission is helping learning happen anytime, anywhere, trying to make it as accessible as possible. And for that, I like to share a little bit of, again, a summary of what Google for Education is and how could you take advantage of our ecosystem. Because again, I think a lot of people know Google and a lot of people know Gmail, or maybe you've heard of Classroom, Chrome, and all these different products. But what it actually comes down into the ground is these three main product sets plus one I wanted to highlight, which is Gsuite for Education, which is a free suite of communication and collaboration tools that include the famous Gmail, Google Docs, spreadsheets, Google Forms that is so used for formative assessments and all types of interaction with parents, with families, and so on. Google Classroom, which is the jewel, right, is a tool for educators to easily create, grade, and collect assignments while sharing rich feedback with students instantly. It's a great way to collaborate. It's hard to explain if you don't see it, but you will, if you go to YouTube, you will see really quickly some demos on Google Classroom, as well as Google Jamboard, which is that last icon in the end. I'm not sure if you see it on your right, just after the light bulb, which is the note-taking app Keep. Jamboard is that kind of interactive whiteboard that I really encourage you to use. It's one of the one's most newest apps, although it's been there for a couple of years already. And then there's Chromebooks, right? I hope you've heard of Chromebooks by now. We have kind of like taken by storm many of the educational markets in the world. We have achieved #1 status in so many countries. We'll talk a little about them afterwards. But essentially, it's the device that Google has designed that then other OEMs like Acer, HP, Lenovo, etc. Sell directly. And it's a device designed for the 21st century, right? With security, ease of mind, and scalability in mind. We'll go after that. The Chromebook App Hub, it's one of our curated store for all sorts of learning experiences. It's getting a lot of traction, and I think it's very good for you to take a look as well. So let's go fast. I am gonna now just gonna throw a bunch of information to you around the different how we design our products, what are our principles, so you understand what the advantages of our products are. But I'll go a little bit quick because again, it's supposed to be kind of a Google for Education vision or presentation, helping you understand how we support elevating learning through innovation and technology. But I do encourage everyone again, contact Yazid Al-Garaibe. You have his email in the second slide, and he'll either put you in contact with our partner or support you with your project. So how do we build our solutions in education, right? Well, there's these very strong principles that I really like because they are our main advantages as well. It's easy to use, right? If you know how to use a browser, you know how to use a Chromebook. You don't need 3-year PD or professional development plan and complicated manuals and so on. We also have a couple certifications for educators to take the most advantage of Gsuite for Education, Google Educator Level 1, Google Educator Level 2, and these are available in Arabic as well. So I really encourage you to join the hundreds and hundreds of teachers that have already been certified in the Gulf. They're flexible and scalable. They adapt to any device, right? You can use Gsuite for Education in every device, not only in a Chromebook, and you will never have a problem of compatibility, of being able to install things because you don't need to install anything. About security backups, it's just so easy, and it's really scalable, right? Because we've done deployments, like for example in Oman, for 600,000 students all across the country, and we did it within 2 weeks. In Lebanon, we were preparing one for 1.2 million, the whole education system of Lenovo, Lebanon, within a month. And with Chromebooks, one person part-time can actually manage 10,000 devices, no problem, which is quite incredible because you will see any IT administrator will not be able to do that with any other device. Even with our own Android, which is also ours, right? It's not only competition or not. It's like Chrome OS is truly the internet operating system. It's always built for collaboration. Anyone that has used Gsuite for Education before, any Google Doc, sees that we don't have a save button with that old floppy disk there, because obviously no new tools have the save button, right? You just won't see it in design. It's a very old button, but we have a share button, right? Because it's always designed to collaborate and to teamwork easily. And in terms of security, we could spend one whole hour talking about it, but we design always thinking about how to really put security first. So for example, in Chromebooks, one anecdote around security that I like to share is that they have this chip, it's called TPM. I think now we've changed it to Titan C. And it's essentially a chip that is a verified boot. It checks when you start the computer, start the Chromebook, that nothing's been corrupted, nothing's been touched with, and you're in a safe environment. And this chip was only used in military devices before, and Chromebooks have all of them by default included, even the cheapest ones. So in terms of Chromebooks and G Suite, and a few numbers that people like to share is, well, the Chromebook is the #1 selling device in the US, in Canada, in Sweden, in the Netherlands, in New Zealand, and in Spain as well, since 2019, last year as well. So obviously we have a nice little gift at the end of our progression of Chromebook in the world, but it is quite a recent device. I think it's been around for 6-7 years now since it started, and everywhere it's gone, it's become #1 device, which is quite interesting. There's more than 140 million students and teachers using G Suite for education today, more than 40 million students worldwide using Chromebooks, and in Classroom, which is one part of G Suite for education alone, there's over 100 million students and teachers, which is pretty insane. Obviously, the COVID pandemic has really boosted online tools and edtech usage, and we are no exception to that. We've seen a lot of usage in that sense. So let's talk a little bit about Chromebooks, if you allow me, because most of you will be used to more traditional platforms, that were designed on the pre-internet era, that you have to update and you have to reboot, that you have to install things, that they definitely don't boot in less than 10 seconds like a Chromebook does. So I think the Chromebook, again, is the best way of describing it. It's a laptop or it's a working device for the 21st century. It's another more very simple way of describing it is it's a browser with a keyboard and a lot of functionality in it. Remember that you can actually use Android apps on Chromebooks. So you have over 2.4 million Android apps available on Chromebooks, which they're not available in any other of the traditional platforms. They boot in less than 10 seconds. The cheapest Chromebook also boots in less than 10 seconds. And most importantly, at the end of their life, maybe like after 3, 4, 5, 6 years, they will still boot in less than 10 seconds. And when have you ever had a device, let alone that it started booting in less than 10 seconds, but that after 3 or 4 years, it still did? Well, in Chromebook, you can ask those customers that we have around the Gulf or around the ones the people that have had Chromebooks for a while, you will see, and you can ask them if it's true, and you will see it's just a complete different level of work and efficiency in that sense. I think, one of the key things of the Chrome Education Upgrade, which is when the Chromebook is meant for education. By the way, never accept a Chromebook just as it is for consumer in a school environment. You always want to make sure it's education enabled, which brings the best of Google thought for the classroom, and make sure you have managed access so that you can put admins in control of what users can access or don't. Very simplified deployment. That is one of our biggest advantages versus our competitors. Big advanced security from disabling and wiping or controlling what a device can do remotely with never touching it physically. I think, with the managed access, which is one of the key advantages, login controls to see who can access the device remotely, again, with no way of hacking that. What sites can you block, right? And depending on who, you could have a device that sometimes a primary student use and that the same device a secondary student use. And you could put different policies that, depending on who logs in, apply. In terms of simplified deployment, is a complete new world. It's hard to describe how easy it is to deploy Chromebooks, but the admin console has more than 300 policies where you can configure anything between printers, VPNs, Wi-Fi networks, whether the grammar corrector is allowed or not, whether the USBs work or not, whether the camera works or not. You can do anything. It really works with the BYOD model as well. Ask us and talk to us about how to do that. The OS versions update always happen in the back. You never have to reboot, never that annoying reboot now or 3 hours from now. And you can check as an administrator all the device reporting you need in terms of who's the last person used the device, what version are they in, how should they update, etc. All of this 100% remotely, right? So in terms of advanced security, again, just throwing a few features there to show you what is our biggest differentiation. But the persistent enrollment means that if the device is stolen or try to be sold, you can actually remotely block it, and they won't be able to, even if they change the hard drive of the device, to use the device for any other use or any other account than the one you've given to, like that specific for example, education domain. So that's something actually really hard to do because it includes a lot of hardware security so that only the school can decide who uses the device, even if it's lost. Like they just won't be able to use it, or lost or stolen. They won't be able to use it at all. We have the kiosk mode, which is really good for the high-end testing, right? Like the big exams, the certification exams that I know they're done in the Gulf. You can actually guarantee there's no hacking and no cheating with the test mode. And there's other features that will really give you all the control you need about a device, and you'll feel that everything else you've tried is from another century. It's obviously when the Chromebook is education enabled, right? When there's the Chrome Education upgrade, it does come with 24/7 support from Google directly. No third parties apart from obviously the partners of Google that you might have contact with. So I like to end with this quote that the IDC consultancy that you might have heard of once said in a report that we're doing, right? In a white paper that we're doing analyzing the total cost of ownership of Chromebooks. That was the white paper, right? And it says like this: I would say that we are saving more than 70% of our time on managing the devices. If we were going to do this with another device, we'd have to almost double our staff. We have all the devices now, but we don't hear people talking about managing it. And that's 70%, right? Like 70% savings on total cost of ownership of a device on a 3-year window means that you can actually spend 3 times more, like you can buy 3 times more devices with the same budget. And I know this sounds aggressive, right? This is not a quote from us. They did a white paper, they did a research on it. But honestly, the best thing would be to look for one of the Google Educator Groups, GEGs, in your region. For example, you can look for GEG UAE for the United Arab Emirates or other regions. I just ask other customers, right? Hey, is this real? Do you really save that much money on terms of licenses and support and fixing and downtime? And you'll see that it is true. And I think it's hard to understand without testing it. So I always say, contact us or one of our Google partners. That's probably the easiest way to do it. And I encourage you to test a couple devices and see how good they really work, because it's a complete change on how much hassle technology will require from you, right? So finishing up, because I know Danny is gonna ask me to finish very quickly. I just want to show this nice GIF from 2013 of how Chromebook has gradually been increasing its presence on the world. And although we have been a few years in the Gulf, now there's a big milestone this year with Yazid and our investment on this. So I'm really, really happy to announce that. So with that, I wanted just to mention that Gsuite Enterprise for Education is an advanced SKU, an advanced version of G Suite with a lot of advanced security and functionality. I won't get into it. I just want to say, hey, if you have more needs of the standard version, this might be for you. And the numbers, we kind of shared them before, but it's kind of incredible that, in just a few years, we've gone from, in classroom, for example, right, 0 to 100 million only in 6 years. So with that, I'll end my presentation. I say, let's talk about your project in your school, in your educational institution. We'll see how we can help.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Marc. That was very informative. Also, Yazid, welcome to the education community in the region. I'm sure many schools are already keen to connect with you. If anyone from the audience has any questions pertaining to the session, please send me an email to marketing@guseducation.com. Alternatively, you can connect with Marc and Yazid directly through the virtual event platform. Once we end the session, you'll be redirected to a short survey, so please tell us what you thought, as we'd love to hear from you. Thank you to everyone who tuned in for this session, but we're not done yet for the day, as we still have 2 great live sessions coming up. Don't miss the next one, which will be starting shortly at 6:30 p.m. UAE time, and discuss developing adaptable and resilient educators in the new hybrid learning norm. We hope that you enjoy the rest of the summit. Take care, and bye-bye from now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.